Welcome. Hello, my name is Ma Cong, and I'm the Associate Artistic Director for Richmond Ballet, the State Ballet of Virginia. I'm so pleased to bring you the final episode of our first season of Viewpointes. Thank you so much for joining us. Viewpointes is a gathering place for greater understanding through diverse stories and shared experiences. And it's brought to you by our series partner, Truist. Truist's purpose is to inspire and build better lives and communities through their commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, both internally and externally. They boldly believe in the power of what we can achieve together. To learn more, visit truist.com. This episode is brought to you by our episode partner, McGuire Woods. McGuire Woods has a history of hiring, developing, promoting, and retaining lawyers of color, women and LGBTQ lawyers, and veterans, continually establishing new initiatives and enhancing exciting efforts. They focus on meaningful support for their diverse lawyers in their careers. The firm's lawyer networks are examples of how they support their attorneys in building communities within the firm. Go to diversity.mcguirewoods.com for more information. Today, I'm excited to talk with the choreographer Levi Marsman. Levi is a Boston-based dancer, teacher, and a freelance choreographer. He trained at the Ailey School in New York, and later he joined Ailey's second dance company. He most recently premiered his new work, Some Kind of Peace, during Richmond Ballet's studio series, May Production. Hi, Levi. Could you say hi to everyone?
Hi, Ma. Hi, everyone. So good to be here.
So great to have you with us, Levi. So we're going to have some, I wrote down some questions, and I will just ask you, and we can just start a very, very casual conversation. So
Great.
The first question, Levi, I have is that, what has this year been like for you professionally and personally with solo performing arts?
Yeah, 2020 to now, we're in 2021 now, still going through this pandemic. I think for everyone, it was a really difficult year, especially for those of us in the arts, with little to no outlets in the theater and performance spaces. It's been really hard. I think for me personally, especially in the very beginning of the pandemic, I was resistant, I think, to change. You know, I think that a lot of us who were teachers and instructors, we were forced to teach by Zoom and on live, virtual classes. And I was very resistant to the idea that dance would now have to be me in a room over here and my dancers, who knows how far away.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was really tough for me to, adapt to the idea that, teaching dance would no longer be a connection of souls in a sense. That was, as far as how I work, that's a really big part of it is, the energy that is in the room and in the environment really brings out the most creative experience.
That's right.
And for me in the beginning, I just could not move past it. And I think that it caused me to honestly be in a little bit of a depression, and I've talked to a lot of friends who felt the same way, that, maybe it wasn't clinical depression, but that they felt themselves in a depressed state because, the world was just moving so fast and changing so quickly. And it almost felt like the arts was left.
Yeah, there's a lot of unknowns. You don't know what's happening.
Exactly, yeah. And in a sense, the arts were left behind. There was, we weren't sure how we were going to make it. And we weren't sure if this was, like you said, for a month, or now it's been a year and a half almost. And so it was really, a struggle for me. I had to force myself to find my creativity again. And it took me, quite a while. And I have to give credit to my husband for really pushing me to stay in the zone that I had created for myself. I felt like, before everything happened, I had so many promising things happening, in my career. And I felt like oh my gosh, all of this stopped all of a sudden. And my husband had to say, that just because the world is changing doesn't mean that you can't go along with it. And I had to change though how I wanted to be creative because I didn't have dancers to work with. I wasn't, I'm a freelance choreographer, so I don't have dancers ready,
Exactly.
to collaborate with on any given moment. And so I found myself like trying to find a way to fall in love with how I dance again,
Mm,
and enjoying the creative space of just me. And
yeah.
I spent a lot of time, um, moving couches and moving the rug so that I could just be me. And
Yeah.
really, I think that as you get older, you in your career, you find what it is that you like, and you find the dancer that you want to be and the choreographer you want to be and how you want to express yourself to the world. um, and in that, I think a part of you loses how it started.
Hmm.
And I think that that was the joy for me this year, is being able to be alone. And even if I would go on live on Instagram and just dance for an hour, and
Hmm.
not in front of a mirror, just dancing however I
Yeah.
wanted to, and just falling in love with it again. So as much as I think that last year was a very tough year for me, as far as my work and my process and creating and trying to say something very big, and big theaters with new companies and new beautiful dancers, it was hard in that sense. But I think for me it was a really great experience to be able to fall in love with me again, and fall in love with how I
Yeah.
enjoy moving.
And that is very,
Yeah,
very important, right? As artists, we
absolutely.
need to know who we are. And I think this is truly important. As a choreographer myself, that it really affected my career as well. Because a lot of project was already planned like 3, 5 years ago. Like all the
Right.
contracts you're already planning, you have this project coming up, but all the
Absolutely.
projects that are happening in 2020 got postponed. So
Yeah.
basically, not only me, for other artists and also choreographers and friends, and they all devastated because they have no creativities and everything put on a pause.
Right.
Not only that, it's also their, I mean, we're talking about the incomes. It's completely just
Yeah.
shut down, and everybody just have no any financial support at the same
Exactly.
time. So, um, but we have been there. But like what you said, that this year really gave us the time to be really finding ourselves and who we are, and we would like to do
Absolutely.
in the future, and to have a really strong voices for the future. So.
Absolutely. And I also think that um, even beyond the pandemic, it forced us, because we were secluded and alone together, to look at a lot of other social things. I think that that was the other thing, is that it made you sit and recognize the other things that was happening, nationally and internationally.
Yeah.
Um, and you had to just really reflect, and all of the movements that were happening around us, we had no choice but to be a part of them, I think. And I think for me, as a young emerging choreographer, um it was like a balance of not being able to, and also wanting to express myself in those moments of, like, is this the moment that I'm going to sit alone, or is this the moment that I'm going to speak out and find a way to express myself? And I think for all of us artists, we had to,
Right.
I think we had to, in some way, um, speak on all of the different, social and political things that were happening over the last year.
Yeah, that just brought me another question that I have, that that Richmond Time Dispatch that had this interview of you, and you had an interview with them saying that you just wanted to cover all the emotions and all the pain and anger and all that happiness into your choreography, that you could cover a lot of angles that for audience who can relate. I thought that was really, really cool. I thought that was really beautiful.
Yeah, I realized, the way that I work so often is just, I have a lot of different ideas in my head, and I don't really fine tune what I want to talk about until the end. And I think the only way to really make that process work is to be open to all of the emotions. And I think that's what I experienced, working with Richmond Ballet, is that I started with all of these ideas about this social and political climate that we were in last year, and how those traumas affected us when we were all alone. And I think that that is what my piece started as, is like talking about how we could get through the problems that we had in the past and what it would look like in the future if we were able to, see each other again and touch again and look someone in the eye. And, I felt like there were so many instances last year where Black men were being targeted because no one was looking them in the face. And I thought that that was a really interesting comparison to not being able to see people with masks. And I felt like that's where this piece started from, not being able to see or touch someone because you have your back against them, or you can't see them because they have a mask on, or because we're all alone together, secluded in quarantine. And what does it look like when we are able to get outside of that environment? But I realized when I started to work with the dancers that so much of the work it ended up being about a personal trauma of mine. And one of my students, Kamal Johnson, passed away last year in a car accident. And I realized at the end of the piece that a lot of it was really about that trauma and about me trying to get past that. And speaking to your point, in that article, I think that is the joy for me about creating, is that there's so many ways to look at movement and at expression. And I think if you fine tune your choreography to, I'm creating a sad piece, or I'm creating a piece about, lilies, it limits what everyone can connect to. And I'm so happy that I was able to be open in this process, because I had no intentions, or at least I didn't think I had any intentions of choreographing about Kamal. And I don't even know if I realized how traumatic that was for me still. Of course I realized it at the moment, but until I saw the work in our first run-throughs, that I think even I was surprised in the run-throughs that I wasn't ready for a run-through, and someone asked to see it. I don't know, a costume designer or one of our lighting designers asked to see it, and I said, oh, okay, sure. And we ran it for the first time, and I just watched the through line for the first time and saw, oh my gosh, this is about something completely different. And not in the sense that all of those sociopolitical issues were not touched in the piece. I think that they were. And I think that if you look at it, unless I told you, you may not even see anything about Kamal. You may only see things about quarantine and about getting past 2020. But as I watched it, I was able to see, oh my gosh, this is highlighting so many different things.
So many different angles,
yeah, so many different angles. And I even look at the duet. I see now that it's clearly about my husband being able to get me through the past year. The duet it's a love duet, but it's mostly about, the connection that you have inside being able to make you connect outside.
Right.
And that for me is, my love. And you start creating and you don't know what you're doing. And then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, well, that's clearly about this.
Yeah, that is very
thing.
true. I mean, I had a pretty much a similar experience, when I choreograph a piece, and I have a pretty clear concept and the message sometimes that I would like to share with the audience. But sometimes after the premiere, by talking to the audience, they will bring such a different perspective to you that hey, I see this in your choreography. You are like, I was like, really? That was so interesting, because I did not see that. But audience, they would see it to relate to their experience.
Their lens,
This is why the arts is so powerful, that how arts can connect people. And this is why that last year has been so unfortunate that, we're doing the best as we can, but the art just seems to be put on the pause for a little bit. But, like Richmond Ballet and other organization, were able to continue push through and did not go dark and still be able to show in the audience. And we did like 96 shows in total for the
It's
season.
amazing.
It was just
Yeah.
really, yeah. I mean, to the
And
audience.
I think that the, speaking to Richmond being able to continue, I think that there's so many people that just had to. And I think Stoner talks about that a lot or she talked about it a lot when I was there, is that if we didn't continue, there would be people at home doing nothing without paychecks if she didn't find a way to have Richmond continue. And I think that that is, in some sense, the same idea that a lot of artists went through. I commend so many beautiful choreographers and dancers who were able to adapt and make dance films and just change the way that they approached quarantine and the limitations that are brought, and really just fine tune their own thinking. And I think that that is, speaking to your point, the great thing about arts as well is that there's always so many chances and so much opportunity to, if you rearrange your thinking, to really create really beautiful art that can connect to so many different people, regardless of the restrictions that you have. And like I said, it's just so great to have a company like Richmond Ballet be able to stay open and to stay performing in that time, and then to be able to bring me in after all of it at the end of the season. I'm just so grateful. Yeah.
We're all very, very proud and really, really grateful for everyone. I mean, for the entire organization, everyone at Richmond Ballet family, and also all the supporters that support us. I mean, it is really difficult season, but we make through, and dancers are dancing so beautifully, and this is a really, really great spirit. So we're really, really, really lucky, really lucky.
Absolutely.
Another thing that I would like to talk about, Levi, is as a BIPOC artist, do you feel a need or perhaps even a responsibility this year in particular to address certain themes through your choreography?
I think that, yes, I do. I feel responsible for my community always. But I think in saying that, always is always. It's not just 2020. And I think that I'm constantly thinking about how I represent and how I should represent, the BIPOC community. And in which ways can I enrich and enlighten the story. I think that that was my intention with this ballet in particular. And then that changed. And I think that that's okay. I think that, a lot of times people forget that just because you're BIPOC doesn't mean that that is all you are.
Mm-hmm.
I am always going to be a Black man. And so regardless of what I do, I'm expressing from a Black male perspective. And I think that that is important. Like I was talking about the duet in Some Kind of Peace. It's always going to be about Black love because I'm a Black choreographer. So I don't have to say anything about it, or I don't have to have fists in the air to be representing Black culture and BIPOC in the BIPOC community. Me existing and me creating is that. And I think that there are definitely instances where I am inspired and want to speak out. And I think that it's just a matter of your lens. Are you looking, are you as an audience member or collaborator looking for me to express certain things, or are you being open to the idea that this expression is part of that community as well? And I think that that has been my, not struggle, but my emphasis in my choreography, is trying to make sure that I'm not limiting the BIPOC community by only expressing what I think everyone expects me to express. And I think that, there are, tons of brilliant choreographers, Tommy Wahid, David Freeland did a really beautiful film with LA Dance Project about certain topics last year that were important to them socially and politically. And they're Black men who wanted to speak on that. And I think that that is important. And I think that there are times where I talk about it as well. And, you know, like I said, it's also important to make sure that we're talking about beauty. You know, I think that, sometimes we think that because there is so much struggle being a person of color, that there is not also beauty. And I think that that is the thing that sometimes I want to make sure gets out there too, is that, you know, Black people did go through slavery. People of color did go through civil rights issues, but people of color also have love. People of color also have beauty. And those things I think should be expressed as well.
Absolutely. We're all humans. We're all
Exactly. Yeah.
you know? So yeah, I find myself, through last year, and I really agree with you. I think beauty, that's something that we all should express. I think
Absolutely.
it's something can really inspire people, that what comes out of the arts. Like my teacher when I was young, and who taught me at my 10 years old, when I was 10 years old, and he says, arts, it's the food for the souls. And
Absolutely.
like if without arts, what can we do? We're gonna go hunger, right?
Yeah.
So, and yeah, I think what you express, I think that is really important. The beauty coming from the all humans are the
Absolutely.
best. So
Yeah.
that's
And I
wonderful.
think that speaking, back to the ballet, I originally wanted to do the idea was to be moving from not being able to touch to being able to touch again. And in my head, that was an idea about partnering. And in my lens, in the beginning, I wanted to make sure that I was showing that people were eventually being able to touch. But what I realized is that, I think actually Ma, you suggested the idea of me having a solo boy. And once I, looked at it and started thinking about it, and working with some of the male dancers as a solo role, I realized that it was more important to me to express the different ideas that I was going through, than expressing one through line, and I
Right.
think that that is part of why there's those vignettes. And I think, the solo section and the fourth group section really speak to, those points the best about, the struggle, that it is, whether it's being a Black man or whether it's depression
Yeah.
or whatever those things are. I think that they're constantly part of my work, but I think it's really important to me that I express beauty as well, and I think that that is something that is really clear in the through line of the work as well.
Yeah, yeah, it really came out beautifully. I mean, the work I watched, even though I was not able to be there for the opening night, but I watched on the Zoom, and
Yeah.
it is really came out beautifully. So yeah, just big congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you,
On this
thank you. I'm
Yeah,
so excited and proud of the work, so thank you.
yeah, it's beautiful. I think everybody did such a wonderful performance. I mean, I was here, I was
Yeah.
on the Zoom, I was cheering for everyone.
Yeah, the dancers were just so open and so they were really inspiring. It
Yeah.
was really great to work with them.
Really, I mean, really has a lot of challenges for us as a choreographer, and choreographing during the pandemic with such restricted protocols, and
Right.
and with the people can or cannot touch each other and all that. My earlier work for Richmond Ballet last November was to the end. This work that basically at that time everybody has to keep 10 feet apart, and
Right, right,
the
right,
the restrictions was very, very,
right,
very clear, and you cannot touch, and everybody stay in the wings. You have to pull, 10 feet apart as well.
right, right, right.
So as for me to how to craft work So it's just very unusual, the way of thinking.
Yeah,
It's a very
of course,
challenging that you have
absolutely.
to think about, okay, I have to keep in mind, sometimes as a choreographer, I'd love to go there and grab someone's hands and, do this.
Right.
And very many times it happened that I always go there about approach a dancer, like, oh, hold on, I cannot get
Yeah,
close. So, all
absolutely.
those little details, and just it's such a great learning experience. But I am personally, I'm just really grateful that, right now, through the vaccinations and all that, everybody's life is slowly, going back to
Oh,
normal.
absolutely.
I just feel like such a release,
Yeah, absolutely.
and I just feel like we could start moving forward and for achieve something even more beautiful. So
Yeah.
the next thing, Levi, I want to ask you is, um, what does this moment say to you about what's come for you in the future? Or, what's the performing arts going to be like for the future, you think?
Yeah. I think that we are able to change how we look at dance. And I think it's been happening for some time, but I think this year forced us to change. And I think that path of change will continue. Speaking mostly to like dance on film and how we approach the theater experience. So many young choreographers are choosing performance venues that are not typical dance spaces. Whether it's using film or whether it's, you know, following dance through a garden some way and, watching dance in a collaborative space. I think that is where dance is headed. And as much as, I grew up going to the theater, as I'm sure you did. And my first experience with dance was in a theater, watching the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater from the balcony.
Mhm.
And those moments and dressing up to go to the theater, I think will always be precious. I think as long as we keep, young kids going to the theater, that will always be precious. But I think what is happening is that we're learning that that is not the only way to enjoy dance. And I
Right.
think being able to see that we could still enjoy dance, through the pandemic last year and be able to be comfortable seeing dance on film and virtually, as much as it's not what we were used to, we wanted dance and the arts so bad that we adjusted. And I think that with the wave of change in these these projects, I think that will be the curve, is that we will start to look
Yeah.
at dance in different lenses.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are many companies and this season, because they cannot bring dancers to the studio and taking classes and doing rehearsals. A lot of companies they are doing is they are using technology to record the dance
Right.
videos and all that to continue engaging the audience and all that. I think
Absolutely.
that's also open another door for the future of arts. It could be using the digital that could be
Right.
bringing much more audience with us. I mean, of course, we encourage the audience to come to see us, like, in live. But I'm
Yeah.
saying, like, for example, if um, this this person traveling to Paris and really wanted to see the opening night and the show,
Yeah.
and so that we could actually provide the virtual
Right.
link, and then on those kind of ideas
Absolutely.
that we could continue bringing more audience with us. So, which is the technology, what it can do is
Right.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think that the quarantine and the pandemic has given us the chance to research a lot of other um, styles and ideas that we probably would have never gotten into before. And I think for me personally, when I was speaking to you about finding my own, self-love in dance again, I found a real joy for Afro house and dancing just in my space in like a house environment and house dance that is. And I've realized that maybe that is how I can incorporate a new element to my style and my contemporary ballet style, is adding a different element to it. And I think that that is happening with dancers too. You know, so many dancers that, you know, are ballet, were just ballet dancers in their own home, were taking hip hop, or hip hop dancers were able to get on, you know, a virtual link to take a class that they probably would have never taken before. You know, I've said, I've had, you know, institutions say to me, you know, your class has gotten so many more new people because there's people that have never taken dance class and don't have to look in a mirror. They don't even have to see you looking at them. They can just take it in the privacy of their own home. And I think that that is, you know, a really valuable tool, just like you said, to be able to reach more people in a new way.
Absolutely. You know, and speaking about that, you know, I just feel like um, this is 2021, and my first time working with the Richmond Ballet was in 2008. So it has been what, 13 years already.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
wow.
so Richmond Ballet is it's very, very passionate for bringing the diversity with the dancers, the choreographers, and then everybody
Absolutely.
to this Richmond Ballet family to choreograph, making the great arts. You know, so I
Right.
think we're just so happy that we're continue be able to bring such a wonderful group of people like you, and you know, like upcoming choreographers, and to give you the opportunity to work with the dancers and to be able to speak through your art. So I think that
Yeah,
is really, really important. Yeah.
absolutely. And I can't thank you enough for being part of a community that is doing that, because as I'm sure you know, there are so many institutions, dance institutions, that are not um, doing as well of a job. And I think that it's so important right now. There are so many young diverse voices right now that need to be highlighted. And, you know, I think that part of why we had so many, you know, as we call them, dance legends or dance greats such a long time ago, is that there were so many people willing to give them a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we need to be the generation that does that again, that is really, you know, taking a risk on
Yeah.
a young choreographer from Boston, or whoever it is that, you know,
Absolutely.
has a voice and wants to have the opportunity to say something. You know, I think we're at a place where we've built audiences that are going to come. We don't have to worry about whether, you know, the critics are going to say whether they like it or not. It doesn't matter. But unless they have the opportunity to try and fail and try again, and
Mm-hmm.
have you know, directors like Stoner and um, other, you know, other directors that are interested, um, will be stuck in the past.
I know.
And I think that, yeah, I think it's really great that Richmond Ballet is so interested in bringing diverse voices to their audience.
It is very important, and we see this as a cultures, you know, because we
Yeah,
cannot live without cultures, and it's very
absolutely.
important to bring the cultures to the art form, that what we do, what we love. And this
Yeah,
is a big thing when I moved from China from 1999 to US. Is I'm a big culture person, that you know, I know that the Chinese culture has been so influenced with my career, what I do, but I also
right,
love to learn Western cultures, and I want to
right.
learn different, you know, I was dancing this piece choreographed by Val, is Lambrina, with the, learning the African dance and all that. I just found it so interesting. And also, you know, I was dancing in multiple Russian and Nutcracker and all that. You know, this is just something that is just really, really extraordinary, that can, we cannot miss that. So the cultures are
Absolutely,
definitely, we need to have that. Now, lastly,
absolutely.
Levi, my last question for you is, what would be your best advice to emerging choreographers like you?
I think that I would say learn how to teach.
Mm,
Because one of the things I learned when I started to choreograph is that unless I could teach someone how to do all the ideas in my head, it didn't really matter how great of a ballerina they were. And I think finding the tools to be able to express yourself correctly and in the, you know, proper tools to teach a dancer how to do what you want is really important. And I also think it's really important to fail, to keep trying. So, you know, going after something over and over and over again and seeing what you do and don't like about something and maybe reworking it. And, you know, until you feel like, okay, I'm done with that project, I'm ready to move on to something else, really keep going until you fully express what it is that you're trying to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think that so often we're, you know, time limits and deadlines, we're forced to come up with a finished product. But it's okay if it is finished and you feel like it's a work in progress. Like I feel like so much of my work, I love it for that setting, but I also would love the opportunity to tackle it again, or I bring it somewhere else and make it look completely different because I still have something else to say, or I use a piece of music 3 times because I feel like the first time it was good for that, but I still have something else in this music that I really want to get out. And I think that is important as a young choreographer. For me, um, it was continuing to explore, you know, and continuing to figure out what it is
Mm-hmm.
that my voice is, you know, what
Always
is it that
trying.
I'm trying to say? Yeah, what is it that I want the audience to see? What is it that I want the dancers to take away? You know, I think that that was another really big thing for me working with Richmond, is that I realized, you know, as much as beautiful as the dancers are at Richmond, my style may not be what they're used to. And how do I still create a beautiful piece
Mhm.
unless I'm able to teach them something as well, and hopefully something that they bring to another studio setting when they're working with a different choreographer.
Absolutely,
And so,
absolutely.
yeah, I think that that is really important for young choreographers and young dancers. You know, you have to be like a sponge. You have
Mhm.
to be ready to take in as much as you can and be able to squirt it all out whenever you have to. And you know, you have to have as many tools in your toolbox as you can.
That's great advice, Levi. Well, Levi, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. And thank you to our corporate partners and Truist and McGuire Woods for supporting these conversations. And Richmond Ballet is committed to pursuit of a active and ongoing learning and creating a culture that is a reflect of all voices and perspectives. To learn more about Richmond Ballet's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, visit richmondballet.com/DEI and stay tuned for more episodes to come. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you, Levi. And it was great to see you today.
Thank you so much, Ma. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Have a great day.